You're listening to Bellwethers podcast with Matthews Joseph.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Bellwethers podcast. This is Matthews Joseph, and today we have Amy Kuruvilla from Australia with Ruby Road Project on our show. So a bit of about Amy. Amy started Ruby Road Project with her sister Lydia, they're both twins, by the way. They started this in 2012 after their visit in 2011 to India. And we'll be hearing more about that. But a little bit extra about Amy, she's also been to study at BSSM Bethel School at Redding in California since 2017. So trust me, guys, it's actually one of the best schools in the world, and it is actually awesome experience. So we'll be hearing a lot more about the Ruby Road Project, BSSM, and the future of those projects. So let's welcome Amy Kuruvilla to the show. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you so much, Matthew. It's so good to be with you.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, we're going to just get started. So, do you mind introducing yourself? I mean, about Ruby Road Project and, about BSSM, just a quick expansion of what I just said.
Yes. So I can share a little bit about how we started if you want, or I can share, I'll start with who we are, Ruby Road Project. We are very small, but our aim is to raise awareness of sex trafficking and to partner with already established smaller not-for-profits to raise their profile and to raise support for them. That's basically our mission, our aim and our mission. And we started in 2012, but I'll share a little bit about that later. BSSM is Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry. So supernatural often scares people, but it's actually really good. The founder is Chris Valentin, actually wanted to put that in there to sort of get people a little bit sort of shocked and surprised by the word supernatural. And I've been studying there for 3 years, and it's really marked my life. It's changed my life and shaped my life to who I am today. And I am so grateful for the opportunity to go there. It's in Redding, North California, and being there really just it's now launched me into what I'm about to do in my next season.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, so you guys, that's an intro about Amy, but yeah, we'll be hearing a lot more. So we're gonna get more about in depth about Ruby Road Project. So here's my first question: how did two twin sisters visiting India in 2011 end up with starting a non-profit organization in Australia? So that's like a totally different from India to Australia. So doing that, it's totally crazy. I mean, it's not something that everybody tries in the world. So it's actually something that was different. So would you mind sharing the flashback behind this?
Totally, yeah, for sure. So it would actually have begun, I grew up in India. My dad is from Kerala originally, and my mom is from England. But we say, the Malayalis. So we actually grew up in Tamil Nadu, South India. And it was actually when I was 12 years old that I remember I first heard about sexual exploitation as a 12-year-old girl. But I often say that when there's, the Lord deposits a seed in your heart, and often it's a seed about something he's going to do in your life. And when he deposits the seeds, there's seasons of watering, and then there's a season of fruition. And so I remember there's distinct seasons where you recognize a seed being deposited. And that was when I was 12. That was a seed to the seed of the passion to fight against sexual exploitation was when I was 12. That was sown in my heart by the Lord. And I was given a book about a girl that was exploited, basically. And I remember reading it. And when I was 12-year-old girl, I was just like, such a heavy book for a 12-year-old girl, right? But I just remember at that age, I was like, God, like I want to go there and fight for these women. It was in Middle East. And I just, what can a 12-year-old do, right? 12. But fast forward to 2011, and Lydia didn't have the same sort of background, but in terms of just the passion and the seed to fight against this was sown in a different way. And we both went to India on a holiday thinking we were just going to go and, just to visit family and things like that. And she took her husband as well, my brother-in-law, James, to where we grew up in Tamil Nadu. And we got connected with an organization called Freedom Firm. They're an organization based in India, and they're doing incredible things. They are, since then I've researched a lot of organizations, and I haven't met many that do such a tremendous role. They do rescue, rehabilitation, and reintegration. It's very rare to see an organization that does all of that so well, and they do that so well. And so we're in Tamil Nadu. We met this organization, and there was a young girl there called Asha, who wanted to share her story with Lydia and I. And we said, yeah, that'd be awesome. So we sat down with her, and I'll never forget. Sometimes I go back to that moment, because that was where the Lord just then reignited that vision, and that's, reignited that. And she shared her story of how she'd been trafficked from the age of 15. She'd been sold into a brothel in Mumbai, and basically, I mean, I won't go into the full story, but basically she had tried to commit suicide multiple times, but the Lord saved her from that. And the day before she was rescued, she cried out and said, "If there is a God, will you rescue me? Like, get me out of here." And then the day after, the brothel, the brothel was raided, and she was rescued out. So she's sitting here sharing the story with us, and you can imagine how we felt. Just, first girl we'd ever met that had been trafficked. It just went really deep into our hearts, and we walked away from there different. Like, we walked away from meeting her different, and we came back to Australia, and Lydia and I both knew that we couldn't stay the same, and we had to do something about this. So that's where it began.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty shocking. I mean, I'm still like in the shock. I mean, that is like, it was intense. I mean, it's pretty intense. I mean, what things happen. I mean, most third world countries are developing countries like India, and mostly in Southeast Asian countries and African countries, human trafficking has become one of the main, it has become a main criminal activity these days. It has actually totally changed up, and raising up and starting up to you and your twin sister raising up to start an organization like this. That's, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's far more than incredible. And with God guiding you, and with you guys having set up a vision for this, I mean, this is huge. I mean, it is literally huge. But so what, how challenging was it to start an organization like this? I mean, that too in a country like Australia, where, it's like, a highly developed country, and, where you just came from a developing country to a highly developed country. So how hard was it to start an organization like this based in Australia?
I think it was more that for us, I just want to say that for us, we are about, not about reinventing the wheel. We don't want to do what everyone else has done. And so when we came back, we were like, okay, what is out there? What is already out there? What is being done? So there was a lot of research involved in starting. But, Matthew, like I was saying, that when God has put a vision in your heart, like we were saying earlier, like he often, it's like, it needs to be overwhelming. If it's, you had that saying, like, if God gives you a vision.
If your vision is intimidating to you, then, if your vision is not intimidating to you, then there's a good chance that it is insulting to God. It was by Pastor Stephen Furtick.
Yeah. And so if the vision isn't bigger than you, then you probably need a bigger vision, right? Like, if we can go, yeah, I can do that, then maybe it's not big enough. And so, even with what I'm about, which I'll share later, what I'm about to do, it's like there's moments where we've been overwhelmed. But so we did research about it, and we researched where there was a need, and we realized that where there was a need was support for smaller not-for-profit organizations. And so, Lydia and I have been very blessed in that we have we're singers, that's our background. And so we here in Australia, we're well networked with musicians and people who are, audiovisual people and things like that. So our desire was to put on events to raise awareness. We felt like that was something we could do. And we also don't want to put on events that everyone else has done. We're all about like just innovative stuff. So we want to do stuff that's creative, stuff that other people haven't done, because people don't want the same old boring stuff, right? So that's kind of where we felt. And also I think people, what's challenging is that there are so many organizations out there. The issue of sex trafficking comes, like I feel like it comes and goes in waves, in terms of people like to ride a wave of it, because, I don't know if you've seen that recently, the whole thing about child trafficking is sort of becoming, and the problem is people tend to sometimes ride the wave of trafficking, and then it dies down, and then people die down with it. And there are people that are continuing to work in this area day in, day out, even when it's not the fad or the latest thing in on social media.
It's more like a roller coaster. So sometimes it's up,
Yes,
sometimes it's
yeah,
down. When it's down, nobody looks into it. Well, when it's up,
exactly.
everybody puts their eyes into it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I made a post recently about that because, I think it's just the way life is. People like to kind of follow the wave of something. And I just hope that people stay on the wave, I think, because it's hard work. I think people need to realize that starting an organization, especially one like this, where, it's not like Hollywood paints trafficking, like go out there, save a girl, things like that. It's really, that's what people think it is. And when they realize it's actually slow burning, patient work, it's not like what you see on television. Trafficking isn't like what you see on television. And that's the biggest thing that needs to be broken, the myth that needs to be broken, right? Most of the time it's just, it's more subtle than that. It's more subtle than that. And that's kind of what I do when I go to India. I've taken teams over to India, Cambodia, and educating them about what it looks like. It's very subtle. It's not what people think it looks like. And fighting it is it takes a lot of patience. Fighting it takes a lot of patience, and it's not for the faint of heart. Like, it really is something that the Lord needs to put in your heart to do in order to fight. That's what I strongly believe. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's like, it's actually massive, what you guys doing. I mean, what you
Mm-hmm.
said, like, it's like the things like what we see in Hollywood or what we see in the movies.
Yeah.
I mean, it is just, I would say it's like 1/100th of something that is happening. I mean, there's a whole other back picture to it than we see. I mean, there's more to it than it meets the eye. And there's a lot of things involved. There's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of activities that is like so bad that we cannot discuss over here. I mean, how bad it is.
Mm-hmm.
And people standing up, I mean, I honestly was like, I thought this was like an issue that was like not that much up to the mark. So I thought like some people like, make a big fuss of it. I mean, most people do. I mean, I think that is like, most people think that this is actually highly overrated. Some people, or like some people think it's like highly underrated. That's like most people think as the mindset. But when like people, like, I know one person, like we were discussing earlier, like about Christine Kane. So Christine Kane was one person that who I actually saw that's when I actually got the insight about how dangerous, how massive this industry is. And even though it's built up on an illegal one. And when she actually put up the statistics in one of her Instagram posts, I was overwhelmed. I was like, wow, that is amazing. That is huge. It is like, it is it's, I don't know, I don't have words to say. It's like, it is shocking. It's more revealing. And you actually have no idea. You actually never had an idea that this thing was going on in this world as you were growing up. I mean, every day you're growing up, something bad is happening to another child, maybe your age, maybe your sister's age, maybe younger than you. I mean, it is happening all around the world. And, I think that is like one of the main reasons that I want you over here. I mean, like, that's why we actually had you over here, because, the vision that you had, and also spreading that, this is not a child's play, or this is not something that you can actually take lightly. It is something that needs to be taken very seriously. And I think every person in this world, every single person can contribute to this. I mean, that's what I believe. But this is actually very huge. And I mean, moving on, but how far do you think that, how much has the vision of Ruby Road project expanded over the years?
Yeah, that's a good question, because we put on multiple events from 2012 to when I felt the Lord call me to, as to Bethel in 2017. And there was a lot of uncertainty about where Ruby Road was going to go from there, because my sister Lydia had her second baby, and so she was very in baby land, at that time. And so our team, we had a solid team that were with us at that time, that would put on events with us and things like that. They felt like they couldn't do it without Lydia and I there, and fair enough, because we were the key drivers of our organization. So we decided to sort of put a pause to the Ruby Road project, and wasn't quite sure. My heart was like, yep, definitely re-picking it up. I just know that this is what I'm called to do, But then the Lord sort of tweaked the vision a little bit. And that's kind of where we're heading at the moment. So we're still who we are, but like we're kind of tweaked a little bit. And like I see us as having multiple arms. And at the moment we're focusing on, I'm developing a school program to take into India. And again, about the Lord sowing a seed. And I hope, and I really believe people listening to this, like I actually believe that there are going to be people listening to this that are going to recognize moments where there was a seed sown, but they didn't know it. And this is actually going to speak to them about a seed that was sown by the Lord, but they didn't realize it was a seed sown by the Lord. And I believe that it's going to actually spark people who are going to actually start to do things that they thought was just this, like, oh, that was just a thought, that was just a dream, that was just like a desire. They're going to realize it was actually a dream sowed by the Lord, a vision that he put in their heart. And so in 2015, I keep going into dates, but I was watching a documentary called India's Daughter. I don't know if you know that documentary.
Yeah, it's like I think it was like one of the biggest, the Delhi issue, the Delhi rape case.
That's
That is like
it. Yeah.
one of the most shocking things that happened in India. One thing that actually opened all our eyes. I mean, that actually, broadened our perspective was that issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it was bad, but we can't talk much about details about it. But that was actually, India's Daughter, that documentary. I mean, even though before that, the newspapers had a lot about this issue, and this was one of the main things, that was like an eye opener to the youth of India. And and then things started coming up, and people started, a lot of organizations formed after this issue happened. I still remember. I think I was in my school days, when I was seeing this, and I mean, it was really heartbreaking to see something like that. But then I still feel like over the years, a lot of organizations has come up to fight sex trafficking and human trafficking and even child trafficking in India. I mean, I believe like, there's like a lot of more organizations that is going to come up in Africa, in parts of the world where like, people really think that, they are not caught, or like, they think like this is still possible. I mean, I believe that, there are people who are standing up, just like you standing up with the Ruby Road project, standing up for something that is like beyond you. And I'm actually reminded what Bonnie Andrews actually told us on the very first episode. And I love the statement. He said this: the vision is always going to be bigger than the visionary. I mean, your vision is always going to be bigger than you. I mean, it cannot be achieved by you. That's like I was saying, if it's not intimidating to you, then I mean, if it's achievable, then there's no point. It's not a vision. I mean, if you can achieve it with the resources that you have, with the potential that you have, and I really don't think that is like a big thing. But when you actually have something that you actually can do extra, and something that even though you are never going to get there, that is vision. I mean, I think most organizations actually need right now is a vision. And over these episodes, I mean, the last 4 to 5 episodes, all people who came over here was telling this one thing: vision. How much of a vision can actually make a change in the whole scenario in your life? I mean, not just your organization, but if you're like the founder of it, I mean, if you're like, especially when you're the founder, it actually not only just shapes your organization, but I believe that it shapes you. I mean, for example, like for the past 6 months, I mean, I never thought I needed to start the podcast and all, but it actually came out. I mean, I was like planning it for like a later time, but I actually had to move up the schedule and everything. And I thought it was impossible. But but that is exactly the vision. I mean, it does sound impossible, and I think it should, and that's how it actually works. And I mean, the vision to make a difference, and the vision that you can actually do something, I think that is very, very, very huge, and that is something that we need to sink into ourselves. And always like to listeners, remember this: the vision is always going to be bigger than the visionary.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good, Matthews. Yeah. That's, I mean, and that's it. Like, so again, watching the documentary was where the Lord put another, like, again, the marking moments, I call them. I was watching it and just, again, feeling very overwhelmed by the issue. And, I believe for me, the biggest driver to fight this is that sort of burning desire. Like, it's like that I see what's happening, and I get so outraged And I let that fuel me to, that's my fuel to keep going. So if I need a reminder of the issue, I go back. If I need something to keep me going, I look back at the issue and I go, this fires me up. Okay, this gives me the fuel to push forward. That really is what keeps me going, is like looking at the issue and getting, again, my heart just breaks for these women, these children, these people who are involved in this. And so watching this documentary, this lady says something very simple. And she said, the key to fighting this issue is education. And it's something, it's like a light bulb went off, it's like ding. And I went, education, that's the key. But it wasn't just education like education. All of a sudden, the Lord just went, education, but not in the way that we think. And it was an education program. And so I was like, oh. So through that process, the Lord started to show me what it was going to look like. And he said to me, and I met Bonnie, actually. I met Bonnie Andrews in Delhi just before I went to BSSM, and I didn't know I was going to BSSM, but I shared my vision and he was so on board with the vision. So I had to reconnect with him. But and I just felt the Lord say in that meeting, not yet, not yet. And I was like, no. But you've got to wait for the timing. Again, with the vision, it has to be the perfect timing, or it's not gonna, the Lord's timing is perfect. And so for me, it's always listening to him and going, when am I supposed to do this? This is the vision from you. It doesn't mean it has to happen now. You have to show me when it's the right time. And so it wasn't until December 2019 that I was on a plane from America to Australia that the Lord reignited that again. And I was sent a video about the rape culture in Haryana. And it's just a horrific video, children, women, men saying that women are just as responsible for rape than men. Like, I couldn't believe I was hearing that, because the school program, my vision, is to do the very opposite, to change the mindsets of young children about women, about the whole, there's a patriarchal society that just is the undercurrent of India, right? And there is this concept that women are subservient, that women, basically that's the whole way that the culture runs. And my heart is to shift that, to change that, and to get people to think about, to respect women, to change all of that. And I believe that is one of the ways to tackle sexual exploitation, to tackle rape, so that's the vision. It's massive. It's so big, isn't it? But he reignited that in December. And he said to me, I'll never forget, whenever I share this, I really feel the Lord on it, because I had a word from this random guy in November that the date that I was on the plane, the Lord would show me my next season. And sure enough, like, that was the date where it happened. And I'm sitting on the plane. He gives me a download of what it's going to look like. And he said to me, go, it's time. Like, he literally said, it's time. It's time. It was almost like the light was amber. It was red, the traffic light, amber, and then he went green. And now he's like, go, go, go. It's time, it's time, it's time. And so, I was like, what's that going to look like? Like, how is it? And now I'm here in Australia in lockdown for like 6 months nearly. And this is the time where I'm preparing it and, just developing the program and waiting for the doors to open in India to be able to roll the program out into schools.
Wow. That's awesome. I mean, I am actually going to book you right now, and like, once the next phase of your Ruby Road project is success,
awesome. Yeah,
I want you actually back with the podcast. I mean,
yes,
telling the stories about that. So I mean,
okay,
I'm actually
awesome.
asking for an advance reservation. So I believe
for sure.
because
Totally.
it's going to be awesome. I mean, I believe like this next season that is ahead of you. I mean, with the Ruby Road project. I mean, your vision. I mean, I'm saying so much about vision these days. I mean, because this one actually is particularly very, very crucial. I mean, because you had your vision. I mean, you and your sister had this pocket. This is what we need to do. And, this is what we are going to set to do. And, when your organization actually had that made a difference. I mean, it might be, it might not be a million people, but even if it's one person, that's a huge thing. I mean, that's what I mean, that's what, like, we need to do. I mean, even though I was like telling my team the other day, even if it's one person that is being influenced by this podcast or inspired by this podcast, that's more than enough. I mean, it just starts with one person. And I think we all need to learn that. I mean, the one thing that, especially my generation, why actually, like, we actually, like, we need a shortcut to success. I mean, we just want the end result. We don't want to go to the process. I mean, I'm not offending anybody, but I think like, that's like the most issue with most of us. And we don't want to go to the process. I mean, whenever like we start something, okay, we need everything, the big numbers. We don't want to adjust the small numbers. But I think like, it's like more than the quantity. I think it's like the quality that matters. I mean, the quality of things that the quality of the service that you're providing. I mean, what you're doing. I mean, even though it's like, an organization that fights trafficking, I mean, the service that you provide, I mean, you rehabilitate them, you take them from wherever they are and then rehabilitate them, give them education, give them proper clothing, food and water. I mean, the basic shelter that is needed. And then you are actually give them another place to stay in, and, you help them develop themselves. That's actually something very huge. And even though if it's like one person, I mean, I believe like, you have made a lot of difference in a lot of people's lives, and I'm actually happy for that. I mean, even I am actually like, I'm still, I mean, I never knew the whole story behind this. I mean, even though, I mean, I knew the vaguely the story from your website and from your bio and from people, but I never knew like, the intense story about this, like this huge. And I'm actually lost for words. I mean, I never get the situation. I mean, when people actually come over here, I'm like, yeah, it's like the first time I'm actually totally speechless. I mean, I'm still I'm still hampering. I mean, I'm still like, oh no, what I'm going to say next. So yeah, I'm still in that situation. But this is actually huge. I mean, what the Ruby Road project has been. I mean, most people actually see the big time ones. I mean, we see only the big time organizations. But I think we actually, this is actually something. When your project has been actually been going to be a light to others who want to start this, and I believe like some of them are going to get inspired, and some of them are going to contact you. And yeah, for your information, guys, the links to Amy Kuruvilla and Ruby Road Project is there in the podcast description. So do check it out. Trust me, it's going to be a lot more helpful. And you can reach out to her anytime. And she's a super friendly person, and she's a super nice person. So you can hit her up anytime. So moving on, like to our very last question, and I think this is like one of the most important questions that I've ever asked on this podcast, and also the very most important question to which is in reference to any person. I mean, I had this question a lot of times in my mind, and I'm 101% sure that a lot of people who are around the world had the same question. So I'm going to ask it out. How do you think an individual, a person at any part in the world can stop human trafficking? And what role does each person play in this big picture?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. And I think personally, my answer is, looking at the issue, it's very multifaceted. So the issue of trafficking is very multifaceted, and therefore the solution is also multifaceted. So I would say, know that one person can make a difference. And we're talking about, when we look at the issue, it's overwhelming in its entirety, because we go, oh my gosh, millions, like this is just the figures, right? Like we're just like, this is too much for my brain to handle. I can't. People just get overwhelmed and then discouraged to do something. So not letting your overwhelm discourage you to do something. Think about the fact that one person and one life, like you can influence. It's about the one person. And that's what I think of, that one person. Asha, the woman I met, the young woman I met, like I think of her and I'm like, if I can rescue her out of a brothel, if I can rescue one woman from prevent one woman from being raped in India, if I can empower one woman to stand up for herself, then I've done something. So I would say focus on the one rather than the millions, right? And I would also say, look for where you're most passionate about, because this issue isn't just about rescuing children. There's also other issues like legal issues. Like you can fight it through the legal side of things, like looking into the judicial aspect of, even like my heart's also that. Matthews, like I also have a heart, and if anyone's listening and that this touches your heart, connect with me, because I feel like the Lord's also placed the burden for rape victims in India. And so that's also a massive side of things, where we need people who are skilled with writing policies and who can help petition the government, to make changes, things like that. So look, research the issue, research it, look into it. If you want to contact me, please do, because it is overwhelming when you look at the whole thing. But if you break it down, then you look at where the solutions can lie, and where do you fit into this? Like, where does your giftings lie? So am I gifted in an area that I can help an organization? Like, can I do graphics? Can I do, even graphics and things like that is so needed. Like, even I would love someone who can do graphics. So where do my giftings, where can my giftings help? God gives us gifts for a reason, and it's not just to tickle people's, ears and eyes, right? It's to make a difference. And, when you're talking about, like, I felt like when you were talking, I felt like the word influence, like, like you said, this generation wants quick. But if you really want to influence, it requires you to, like, actually dig deep and get settled in for the long haul. If you want to influence, it's going to take time. And I think Bonnie even mentioned that about, like, the time it takes. It's not just something that happens like that. It takes time, it takes patience, and God's often more concerned about what he's doing in your life as well than what he's doing through you. So often it's the character building as well that he's doing through you as well in this process. So yeah, I don't know if that helps and that answers your question.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much, and every person can make a difference. I mean, even if it's one person. I mean, if you look at around the world, I mean, you take at any person who's actually having a multi-billion-dollar empire right now, or a person who's actually standing. But let's take Christine Kane, for example. I mean, she started out as one, so she actually knew that she actually had to start. And so that, I mean, if you take on the other hand, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is actually doing a lot of humanitarian work in India, especially, it actually started with Bill Gates, who actually thought he should start Microsoft. I mean, it all started with him. And even take Steve Jobs. True. I mean, he thought he needed to change the design of the phones, and he started with the one button Apple. I mean, it all started with one person. I mean, all around the world, you take Elon Musk, you take Jeff Bezos, or you take any person, for example, Mark Zuckerberg, or everybody who actually has made a huge difference. Even Bonnie Andrews. I mean, he actually even did it. I mean, it all started with him. I mean, it all started with one person. And I believe, that can make a difference. I mean, even if you're alone, I mean, but there are a lot of others fighting beside in this huge battle, and you just don't see it because it is not visible to us, because we are not connected. But organizations like these, I mean, when we actually do awarenesses like these, I believe that people get connected. I mean, some people who actually stand up for things like these can connect with you, and you can actually help them out, and there might be someone who can help you out as well. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, we never know, because when we do this podcast, I mean, podcast, blogs, and all these things, the main part is it's more like a back end thing. I mean, we just spread it out, and we don't know how many lives gets changed.
Exactly.
So, only unless and until we get an email or something, that's only we are okay. Wow, this something happened, or someone reaches out to say, okay, hey, I'm gonna do this. I'm inspired by this, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I mean, we only get like one, I mean, we don't get it every day. And if people if people used to write for everything, I mean, I believe we would have got a lot of emails and queries about how much we are inspiring people. And I believe that, and I firmly believe that. So I mean, it's like the back end thing. So, but still, I mean, there's a lot of people who are actually getting inspired, and a lot of people who are standing up to fight against all these things. And just like you heard Amy Kuruvilla speak, every person matters, and you all can make a difference, even if you're standing alone. And there's going to be a huge people that in these recent, I believe that we are going to see the race in the next 10 years. A lot of people are going to stand up for issues like these. And I believe that there's going to be a huge empowerment change in this world that is going to happen with people like us. And it all starts when you make one step forward, and it all takes us one step. And I believe that people actually need to sink that in, and take that stand, because every one person can make a huge difference.
Definitely.
So again, that's all. But I mean, this was like, I mean, I would say this is like one of the most intense sessions I ever had, because I mean, this is like a totally different subject that we actually had. We had influencers, we had CEOs. I mean, we had different people. I mean, we different sharing different ideas. But this is something that we never had. This is like something, I don't know. It is like totally totally disruptive. I mean, I'm still shocked, when you gave the
Wow.
statistics and you were talking about how things are. I mean, it is
Mhm.
pretty, it is pretty, huge. But I believe that this is going to be one of the most influential episodes from our
Right.
podcast as well, because I believe a lot of
Mhm.
people are going to know about this, and I believe like a lot of people are going to get touched by this, and I firmly
That's
believe that.
awesome. That's
Yep.
so good, Matthews. Yeah.
Yep. So, is there anything else that you want to share, as a final note from Amy Kuruvilla?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you feel something burning in your heart and you're letting the overwhelming feeling of that vision stop you, don't let it stop you, because when it's a burning vision, it's from the Lord. I can guarantee you that. If it's a vision that doesn't die down, like if it's still intense in your heart 2 years on, then I'm telling you it's a vision from the Lord. And then you just need to ask him, you just need to step forward. Like if you're listening to this and you've had a vision, if it's not necessarily even sex trafficking, if it's anything that God's put in your heart to fight against an injustice or whatever it may be, and it's been in your heart since you're little or even the last few years, I believe that God is saying it's time to step out. And you might not know what the next step is. Take that first step. And I'm telling you, I promise you, he will provide for you. He will give you, he's so faithful in giving you the next step and giving you more clarity in the vision. So yeah.
Wow, that was awesome. But thank you so much again, Amy
My
Kuruvilla.
absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
mean, so to the guys who are hearing us, this was Amy Kuruvilla on the first phase of Ruby Road project, and the next phase is going to be in Mumbai, and a lot of things are going to happen. So we're gonna have another interview after the success of the
Yeah.
next phase of it. So she's going to share a lot more about that, how her vision is actually expanding with every
So good.
phase that she's reaching. So again, once again, thank you so much, Amy Kuruvilla, and to the people who are
Thank you,
listening to
Matthew.
us. Yeah, you're
Thank
welcome.
you.
And so
My
the
pleasure.
people who are actually listening to us, all the links to Amy Kuruvilla Ruby Road Project are again in the podcast episode description. Do not hesitate to reach out to her. She's a very friendly person, and she'll let you know everything. And if you want to collaborate with her, she's actually welcome to do that too. And and if there's anybody like who wants to start an organization, you want to reach out, do reach out to us, and just hit us up. I mean, no, the email and all the websites are put up in the description of the podcast. So you guys just have to reach out to us, and we can connect you with so many people that we know, and it's going to be beneficial for you as well. So don't stop at anything, just like it's just one mail, or one Instagram, hey, that might change your life. I mean, I just asked her, hey, can you do this? And she was like, yeah. And this has actually been a road changer for me. So
That's good. Awesome.
it might be the same for someone else like that. So do not hesitate to reach out to us. So once again, thank you so much. Thank you, Amy. Thank you to
Pleasure.
all our listeners. You guys are awesome. And so stay tuned. And next week, we're going to have someone else with a new story and with a new vision and how it is all working out for them. So thank you so much for listening. Stay
You're
tuned to
listening
Bellwethers
Bellwethers
Podcast.
Podcast.